Hello, welcome to the sideboard here at Grand Prix Miami. I'm Nick Miller alongside Ari Lax, Steve Rubin. How you guys doing?
Pretty good today.
Doing well.
A couple of guys that know their way around a Siege Rhino. We have a Pro Tour champion and the deck designer himself.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about standard because GP Miami is standard. We'll start off with, what do you guys think is the best deck in the format?
Are you asking us that? Do you expect an answer other than Abzan?
I don't know. You might have changed your tune.
I would go with Abzan, but in a similar vein, I actually think that the blue-black control decks are pretty good too.
There are other reasonable options, but like if you're looking for what deck is the best deck with just all the best cards, it's definitely Abzan.
Okay, you guys are the first people I've talked to who have been hard and fast on a best deck.
Well, I don't think there is a best deck, but I don't know. Like I said, I mean, the blue-black control decks keep the Abzan deck in check pretty well, so.
Yeah.
Right. So what makes the Abzan deck that you guys are both playing the best deck?
Well, it's all good cards, but the way I've been thinking about it is like 5 years ago when Jund wasn't standard, I have this Jund list that I thought was great and is still like one of the best standard decks I've ever played. I took the Abzan list that we're playing today and laid it out, and it's literally just like card for card all the analogies of like, you've got, you know, back then you had Putrid Leech as your super aggressive 2-drop so you could like steal games, and now you have Fleece Mane Lion, which we've moved to the main.
Right.
There's like your semi-controlling 3-drop and Corsair Crewfix that used to be Sprouting Threnax, Bloodbred Elf Siege Rhino is a comparison many people have made, and it's just like, these cards are just so good, and none of your cards are bad. They're all just generically good against everybody, and you just win games because people draw bad cards.
And to sort of build on what Ari, I obviously agree with just having only good cards in your deck, but it's almost like you get to play a little bit more Magic than your opponents. Like, I made the comparison like back years ago when like Caw-Blade was dominant, like the kind of card like Preordain, which just, you know, just increases your win percentage of like any deck. Like, I feel like Corsair is a very similar card because it pretty much just like thins your deck, lets you play your land drops, is good in every matchup. So just, it's almost like as if we have the best cards, at least cost-wise, but we also have cards that let us just play Magic, give us decisions, which is where you want to be at a large Grand Prix, I think.
Yeah, and especially with Corsair, I've noticed watching a lot of standard matches, there's a lot of games where people are like, oh no, they mulliganed, and then like 4 turns into the game, they played a Corsair on 3, they didn't have it die, and they're just like up cards.
Yeah, I actually had a game against Todd Anderson on the Star City circuit that was like, I mulled to 5, and like, he like started giving me the speech, and I was like, I don't really worry till I'm on like 4. And I had like turn 3 Corsair, like land.
Yeah.
We ended up drawing the game, but like it's because we didn't have enough time.
Yeah.
But I probably would have won. So
Yeah,
it's like Corsair digs you out a lot of situations where other cards wouldn't.
Yep.
Like, I mean, if you're playing a deck like, you know, blue-black control, like you mull to 5, you know, there's no one single card that will get you out of the situation, especially because like Dig Through Time needs other cards to like sort of fuel it up.
That Open Series, you went on to win, so it turned out pretty good.
Yeah.
So you guys are hard and fast on the deck you like, but the format is pretty wide. Do you feel like standard is solved?
I think it's solved in the sense of you have to do these general things to make your deck competitive, but there's just so many different cards. Like, it's like, well, you have to play some really good threats, and it's like, well, which ones do I choose? Do I choose Ugin, Siege Rhino, Goblin Rabblemaster? It's like, well, you have to play answers. It's like, okay, Chain to the Rocks, Hero's Downfall. What 3 colors am I playing with Hero's Downfall? So like, it's solved in the sense that we know what a lot of the good cards are, but like putting the pieces together, there's a lot of unique ways to do that.
Yeah, I would say the format isn't solved, and similar to what he said, except more that like, it isn't solved in the sense that people are constantly kind of changing specific cards. Like every single archetype can be like 4 to 8 cards different from like a same deck in that archetype, which makes it pretty interesting because on any given tournament, you know, I could be playing the same deck as Ari, like Abzan mid-range or whatever, and we'd have 8 different cards, and like some of the removal, the defining factor of this format is that the removal is all conditional. Like there's no like Doomblade, it's all Lightning Strike, like Utter End, Vile Blight, Wild Slash.
Hero's Downfall.
Like, I know some people this week, like depending on what week it is, you know, Lightning Strike might be good, or like I know a lot of people this week are putting black into their white-red deck to splash Crackling Doom because Lightning Strike isn't great now where Crackling Doom is, so, you know, solved in a sense that like the best decks are out there, but, you know, every given week a different version will be good.
What is the most overrated and underrated decks in the format?
Overrated and underrated. I think underrated right now is probably the blue-black control deck. I think that deck is really good and disproportionately underplayed because it really takes a lot of discipline to play. It's not like Sphinx's Revelation decks last year where you had a get-out-of-jail-free card. Like, you really have to build your game plan, and you're really scraping marginal advantages. In a lot of games, you're using your life total very fully as a resource. Overrated, I just have to say any build of white red that doesn't have 4 Outpost Siege. Okay. I don't know how that deck can function without that card. Like everything the deck does that's good is basically, like I play Outpost Siege and I can outcard you if you try to beat me that way. Whereas if you just don't have 4 copies of that card, they can just like kill all your things and you lose.
Yeah. All right, well, you sniped me on the underrated blue-black control, so I'll go with, I think that green-red devotion is another underrated deck. I think that, at least for Abzan specifically, like if they're playing the 4 Crater Claw build, like it's pretty hard to beat that deck with Abzan. And not to mention that I think that deck just has game against anything, like especially if red-white's going to be popular, you know, playing Pluganos on turn 3 is like always going to be a good strat. So, and in terms of overrated, I think that I don't want to go as far as to say red-white is overrated. It seems to be like overly played for a deck that if you want to beat it, you can.
Right.
Like versus like Abzan, which is sort of, you know, it's hard to really attack that deck in a specific way to be good against it. So I guess I'd go with that.
If you had one choice of a card to be reprinted in Dragons of Tarkir to make Standard more tailored to your liking, what would that card be?
Pyreheart Wolf. I think that there's this big issue where you can't play an aggressive deck because there's too many cards that immediately stabilize the board.
And Drown in Sorrow just wrecks you.
Drown in Sorrow is a card, whatever.
Yeah.
Like you can. I'm okay with the 3-mana sweeper being good against aggro, but like there's just too many Pelucranos or Siege Rhino or whatever. You just play it and you're just like, there's no card in my deck that does anything. Which is why White Red's good because it gets to play Chain to the Rocks and Valorous stance for those cards. But if you had like a card like Pyreheart Wolf, you have a card that legitimately would make it so that, hey, if they have this card, my Siege Rhino might not be enough to stabilize my life total.
And it's hard to remove from the board.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
All right, that's your own opinion?
I was going to go with maybe a card like Syncopate, just because I feel like even though the blue-black control decks have been like winning Grand Prix, I think that deck's just a little weak in a sense that like if you have to play like a 2-mana, like I'm not that big of a fan of a 2-mana counterspell unless it's really bad, like Syncopate is, like in terms of casting it on turn 2.
Right.
I just think that, you know, a lot of decks can take advantage of the fact that you're playing 4 Disdainful Stroke by playing around it, just playing cheap guys, and I think that like that early interaction card that's also good later would be like a good card for the control decks.
What about Prohibit?
Prohibit is pretty bad because you have to pay 4 to counter a Siege Rhino with it.
Yeah,
right.
But, you know, it's the same thing. You could play it on 2, but in the late game, it's a little awkward, but still castable.
Yeah, I mean, I think any kind of 2-mana counter, as long as it's bad, obviously. Like, we don't want Mana League or Miscalc or anything like that.
Yeah. Oh gosh, Miscalc.
I mean, it's not really a 2-mana counter, but Syncopate's just the kind of card that like allows that deck like a decent amount of versatility. Instead of having to play like X number of Bile Blights, X number of Disdainful Strokes, it can have like a better mix, I feel like. So.
Okay.
So more realistic cards that we've seen spoiled, what are you more excited for?
I'll let you go first.
I'll let me go first?
Yeah.
I mean, I would say I'm pretty excited about Sarkhan, mostly just because it just lets Teamer attack at a different angle, almost. Like, the Teamer decks now are all about getting its threats out like a turn or 2 before you deal with them, like holding up Stubborn Denial and that kind of stuff. And I think that like a more controlling mid-range Teamer deck might be good with the new Sarkhan. Or even Rampy, like 4 colors, because it does add 1 of any color, right?
Yeah.
All right.
I was just also going to say Sarkhan. It's just like, it's just stupidly powerful. You just like read the card, it's just like, wait. So like the worst case scenario is that it's Broodmate Dragon. And it costs 1 less.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the worst case is they kill your dragon, then kill the Sarkhan.
Yeah, that's fair.
But like, it's just so good. Like the abilities on the card, like I don't even care what the ultimate is. It's just, I'm just gonna make dragons. That's the ultimate. Is that if it lives long enough, the dragons will kill you.
I guess people might just play it in like the Teamer deck that exists now to make that deck like have like a nice end game.
Have a Siege Rhino.
Yeah.
A card that's just always good.
Yeah.
All right, let's gear up for the lightning round here. Call and response. I'm going to shout out some words. You say the first thing that comes to mind. Standard.
Great.
Siege Rhino. That's 2 words. Sorry.
Waves.
Horses.
Waves. Kiora.
Nice, you got it.
That's
all
what
right.
I thought of.
Devotion.
Bad.
Nykthos.
Cons or dragons?
Cons.
Dragons.
Miami.
Too hot.
Beach.
Charms or commands?
Charms, but only because they won't let me get that 1 command back.
I'll go Charms.
Steve Rubin.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Excellent. Ari, Steve, thanks for sitting down with me here in the sideboard. Stay tuned to StarCityGames.com all weekend long for the action here in Miami.